If you think I've lost my mind, then you're not alone there. I think my husband is questioning my sanity daily. So I'm in my living room checking on my sweet pepper and chili seedlings, and I sowed them on the 5th of February, just in these little pots, and that is literally just 3 weeks ago now, and they're here on the floor with underfloor heating. So before they germinated, I would have had them covered with this little bit of acrylic plastic, which are just like sample little leftover pieces, and I had just covered the pots just to create a bit of a more of a humid conditions for them. And once they appeared, I would have removed all those. They're just in a standard compost. I actually didn't even put vermiculite or perlite through it, so it's just purely standard compost out of the bag. I try to leave some of the bigger lumps out, that it's a finer, that finer texture, but they've come up very, very nice. I tried out basil seed, which was at least 7 years old, but they were in of a couple of packets, and I tried them and they've actually come up as well, and the smell is just divine. Just divine. What's going on in Ukraine at the moment, my heart goes out to all the Ukrainians, all the families. It is just horrendous. But at the same time, considering then how all this, even though in Ireland, like, we're well away from Ukraine, but the consequences of all the sanctions on Russia and we don't know how long this is going to continue, but the effects it can have on all the economies again in Europe. So yeah, it just brings back these thoughts about the Victory Gardens as trying to become and be more self-sufficient if possible, because if the electricity prices keep going up, it's not that you could start making your own energy that easily, but you could grow a little bit of a food if you have any bit of land or a garden or even container gardening. So there's another little job I want to get done, and I feel like I'll be taking you on the tour of the house as we go along, because we're in the kitchen now, and the job I need to do is to soak my sweet peas. Now this is my self-saved seed mix. I don't have it labelled because the different varieties that I would have had, I just gathered what was available from them, and they got all mixed up. So let's call it a home mix. But they do, because of the hard outer shell of the sweet peas, they do germinate much quicker when they have been soaked. So I'll be soaking them for 24 hours. So the next part of the house is the utility I'll take you to, and it is the coolest part of the house. It's unheated, it's fully north facing, but it's actually quite well lit. So what I wanted to show you here is the range of potatoes. I have chitting, I have cara, which is a main crop, and it's supposed to be a flowery potato, but I just love the colour of these little chits here, how it's just that kind of deep purple underneath, but it's a white fleshed potato. We have then Desiree, which is another main crop. I loved how another YouTuber, Alan from the Dawn Chorus Plot, just explained about the direction of how the potatoes are going to be, I suppose, planted in the ground. Is the smiley faces up, check his channel out. He's so knowledgeable. But yeah, I've never actually thought about it, because in my days, not my days, jeez, I make myself sound very old. So there we go, we have the smiley face again. But when we would have been planting fields and fields and potatoes, it was just take one out of the basket, slit with the shovel into the ground and drop that behind the shovel. You'd never thought which way. It's just where the chits were coming out the strongest, that was the upside, and nothing else. There was never a question. But there is another sort of way to look at it. If you don't quite see that smiley face on them, is you would have this kind of like an umbilical cord area, or it's a little bit, if I find one option here now, you would have this kind of a little bit of a hairier knobby side underneath. So that's definitely the bottom. Yeah, there's like, look at this now. This is better one. So this is like the umbilical cord. This potato, the umbilical cord downwards, and the smiley face up. And the biggest amount of potatoes I've got is Charlotte. So again, in here we have the little umbilical cord underneath, and then a smiley faces on the top. But no, they're all doing well. It's just checking for any kind of mold. So this is something we don't like to see. So I'll probably just cut that half off, because the other half is nice and strong. Then next is onto my little pet project, which is still in the kitchen, right? I just remind you, it's still in my own kitchen. I have some of the bits put together in here already. That was my last Saturdays or Sundays work. In that stormy weather, I was doing that just to keep pottering on. So all this metal, the fittings, this is my kneeling pad, hello, equals this. So this is something I'm incredibly excited about, because it sort of symbolizes a different level of growing I can do. And it's been something that's been on my mind for years. Because of the lack of level ground we have, I just could never visualize having a greenhouse on a sort of sloping ground. We had a digger around about 2 weeks ago, and it leveled off a little bit of an area. Now the size of the greenhouse is not huge. It is it's 3 meters by 4 meters, which is 10 by 12 feet. Yeah, it's exciting. It's really, really exciting. I ordered it on the 3rd of January, and it was delivered within 3 days. So yeah, wasn't quite ready coming that fast, but look, we had it, and then I was like, oh sure, there's plenty of time until I won't need it until probably March. Now it's end of February, and I still don't have it together, because it comes in all these separate sections that eventually get bolted together. I was thinking that if I start with some of these sections and get them assembled in the house when the weather is not favourable to be outside, and then when the weather comes, rather than being held back by the time of getting through these little nuts and bolts, because if I show you, see how tiny these nuts are, right? So trying to screw them together, having been to be done under pressure when the weather is really good, because, bear with me, that's all the instruction manual, but because that framework still needs to be dug into the ground and concreted in before the acrylic sheeting can go onto it. So that also has a couple of phases. So that's what I'm at. Now, if you think I've lost my mind, then you're not alone there. I think my husband is questioning my sanity daily. Except you never question my sanity. Huh? What is that for a greenhouse in a kitchen? Only a crazy person would. Now, managed to get 3 sections of the middle part of the greenhouse done. So they're like three identical pieces, all inside the kitchen, and we got them out through the patio door here. But then the first 2 hoops I put together, they're actually the doorway hoops. So if the weather allows, it's still very, very windy, but if the weather holds, I'll tip away with that. And it has been about 24 hours now since I put the sweet peas to soak, and look how lovely and plump they are. Totally different from those hard wrinkled up seeds. So really nice, juicy, lush, and little tails are showing as well on some of them. So I'll go ahead and plant these now today as well, because they've had enough time now to rehydrate themselves. Now obviously with the ginger, this is a rhizome, so they would, the growing styles of these two obviously is very, very different, totally different to one another. So ginger being a rhizome, it wants to go laterally, so I have a wider rimmed pot here. Now I'm not going to fill every bit of it with soil. I'd say the maximum finished surface is going to be up to there, so the rhizome itself ends up sitting around this kind of level. But then the sweet peas are deep rooted, and I have these root trainers for that. I'll try to get 2 into each pot, and then in both cases I leave them in the house to germinate. But once there's young shoots out from the sweet peas, I'll take this then straight into cooler temperatures, because sweet pea has no it has no problem with cold, but at the same. So these are filled now with multi-purpose compost, and I'll try to get 2 per cell. So I'll keep tipping away with that. You can probably hear the neighbour cutting the grass already. The growth is there. Month of March next week.
So YouTube is going to be recommending you some of the videos that you might be interested in to watch. So thanks a million for watching this one, and we'll see you next time.